Would you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a roll call, please?
Counselor McLeod,
Present.
Counselor Smith,
Here.
Counselor McGee, Counselor Newton,
Howdy.
Counselor Thompson,
Here.
Counselor Van Dremelen,
Aha.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Here. Next, item 3 on your agenda is adoption of the consent calendar. Council, would you like to do with this?
I move to adopt the consent agenda as written.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council. Next is number 4 is presentations and ceremonies. First up is presentation by Chance Recovery. Emma Dean, page 8 through 22 of your packet. Good evening,
Good
Emma.
evening, Mayor and Council. Give me one sec to make sure I've got everything. Give me one sec. Set.
There we
Awesome.
go.
Thank you. All right, I'm Emma Dean. I'm the Executive Director for Chance, and this is John Phelps, who is our Shelter Director. A little bit about Chance. We have a downtown office that's open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We provide peer support in our community to anybody that's seeking those services. We serve about 60 to 90 individuals a day in our building. We utilize our downtown building during our business hours as a warming and cooling center for the community as well. During the weekends and evenings, our building is also utilized by local groups for NA, AA, Gamblers Anonymous, or Wellbriety. We also have education services that are offered. Peer support is staff with lived experience, either with mental health, recovery from addiction, or both, allowing them to walk alongside peers to provide support. We'll transport individuals to and from detox anywhere in the state of Oregon, help set up those appointments, medical appointments, or mental health support. We work really hard to, if we're connecting somebody that we serve to a resource either in our community or another community, to be on the other side waiting for that person to pick them up and to bring them back to shelter or housing or to other services. We also will connect to just different resources and help peers navigate those resources. We help individuals obtain needed documents. We see a lot of individuals, no ID, no birth certificate, no access to insurance. So we're helping individuals get those things. Our team also helps with employment support and assist peers in finding housing opportunities and filling out housing applications. Services at our Albany office include showers, laundry, meals. We do breakfast and lunch downtown Monday through Friday. As I mentioned, transportation, education. We also, and I'll share a little bit more later, have dental and medical on site, and then MAT services, which is medically assisted treatment. We partner with Samaritan Care Hub at our shelter for a 5-room respite building. So individuals that are unhoused, that need surgery or have had surgery, have a safe space to heal, where our staff work with them to be connected to other resources. The Samaritan Medical Mobile Bus goes to our shelter one month, and the next month goes to the shelter and flips back and forth and provides medical care to individuals. The IHN clinic has been amazing, provides services such as OHP navigation and connection to primary care. They come to our daytime center. They also go to the shelter, and they go out with our outreach team and meet people right where they are in our community. Community health centers of Benton and Lynn counties provides dental care at our office. So typically 1 to 2 Mondays a month. They have a dental hygienist team in there providing care for people, and then once a month, a dentist. Street outreach and overdose prevention. We're really proud to have such an amazing outreach team that's dedicated to meeting people right where they are in our community and providing medical, substance use, and mental health referrals to unsheltered individuals and communities in our families. Families in our community, sorry. Chance distributes Narcan, hygiene kits, food, water, and other essential survival items. We also, with our shower and laundry at the shelter and downtown, if somebody gets a jacket, things like that, we're coaching on, hey, bring it back, we'll wash it, we'll dry it for you. Our outreach team also partners with Ideal Options, IHN, and first responders. It's our goal to make resources more accessible to those in our community and removing barriers and building rapport. Second Chance Shelter has a low and high barrier dorm, 5 family dorms, medical respite. Our high barrier is a clean and sober space. Our low barrier says, come as you are. You don't need to check any boxes to have safe shelter. The medical respite facility, year-round warming and cooling center, 3 meals served daily, shower, and laundry facilities. While individuals stay at our shelter, they have access to peer support, 24-hour staff, case management, housing and employment support, essential needs, mental health, and substance use treatment referrals. Throughout the winter, our low barrier was full. We had overflow into warming center, and something we saw last summer was we were full during summer, which is not typical for us. So we also had overflow in another space for a cooling center. In addition to our low barrier, we have 110 high barrier beds and then the 5 family rooms, which is almost always full with a waiting list. This year so far, we've had 388 visits to our clothing closet, over 18,000 meals served between our downtown and shelter location, over 1,700 showers provided to people in our community, over 600 loads of laundries done, and then downtown, over 4,500 check-ins to our building. Recovery support through Chance this year. We've had 224 peers assisted with housing. Looks like resources, helping fill out applications, driving people to and from, looking at housing appointments, things like that. 121 peers medically assisted or provided referrals at our site. 76 peers engaged with detox treatment. This includes us calling an assessment, driving them to detox, or seeing if a bed's available and then continuing to call back until that bed's available. 55 peers accessed A&D treatment, so that's either with dynamic recovery, Lynn County A&D, different services like that. 47 peers received employment support, and 4 families have transitioned out of our shelter into stable housing this year. We believe greatly in community engagement. We're one agency. We cannot do it all alone. Agencies that we partner with heavily are the police department, the fire department, CSC, IHN and Samaritan, Lynn Benton Food Share, and other local nonprofits. Bridges to Recovery is our annual event. This year we'll be celebrating 20 years in operations as a resource for people seeking recovery from addiction. The purpose of this event is to allow the community that often exists in the background to take center stage. We celebrate the progress of those who have made it into recovery. We also honor individuals who didn't survive addiction or who are still living with it. We know it takes a whole community to support each other, and we honor that truth by stretching interlocked hands across the bridge, reminding each other that we're all in it together. Current needs, we recently received a 14% cut in our funding from our largest source of income. Fortunately, we did not have to cut any of our programs or any of our staff. We are looking for general operating funds to supplement this change. We're looking to fund the purchase of our shelter. We don't currently own our shelter, which makes it really tricky for us to access any other funds to do any maintenance or any of those things. Another major way that people can help support Chance is with in-kind goods. Chance is fortunate to have an uplifting community, strong partnerships, and dedicated team of people who support what we do. Thank you.
Council, any questions or comments?
Is the property owner willing to sell?
Yeah,
That's good
we have
news.
a locked-in price.
That is good
Yes.
news. That's new.
Question, Counselor McGee?
Question, with the check-ins, were those unique check-ins or those multiple people coming back?
They're unique check-ins.
Those unique check-ins, thank you.
As someone who's called Chance for someone that was intoxicated and passed out and unhoused and,
Mhm.
you know, thank you for coming. And when other services weren't able to quickly and able to get those folks assistance when needed. I had someone, well, actually, that's maybe not a story to share. But no, I'm really grateful for the services you guys are doing. And I know that there's a true impact.
Thank you.
Counselor McGee?
When is the Bridges to Recovery event?
In September, we're waiting to lock in a date. We're meeting this Friday to pick a date, and then we will make sure that that is shared. September is recovery month, so we pick a day in there.
So I personally appreciate both of you and the work that your team and your team of volunteers do. I've called John several times. I've called you several times, recently emailed the case situation to you. And I want to thank both of you for being responsive, with coming with intent and helping people get into recovery, just change their situation, getting better. And I brag about Chance all the time when I'm talking to other mayors. We have Chance. We have this organization that we can rely on, Community Services Consortium. So thank you very much for the work you do.
Thank you. I would add real quick just to Counselor Nunes. Please call us if you see somebody that is unhoused, struggling with addiction or mental health. Yes, there's agencies. Yes, it's sometimes a police thing. We have a great partnership with our police department, but also if it's a thing where we can jump in and make sure that our police and fire department stay free for other things, and we can connect that person either in our building or at shelter, like we want to do that every time. And if we are available, we will try to respond. So thank you.
Counselor McLeod?
Thank you. To follow up on that, do you have a 24-hour phone number?
We
Or
do. We have a
Mhm.
crisis line.
you have a crisis line? Can you tell us about that, please?
Just, it stays at the shelter all the time, and we always have 2 peer supports that are on shift. So even if you call late at night, they're able to go out.
What's the number?
I'll get that for you.
Okay.
So we need Bridges information and crisis number.
Yep.
Also, during like typical Monday through Friday business hours, our Albany office shelter, but there is an after hours number. So we'll send that to you guys.
Is that available on your website?
I think she just brought it up.
I have the crisis phone number.
yay.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure this is the, yeah. It's going to be 503-851-1160.
1160
503
851.
851 1160.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Emma. Thank you, John. Next on tonight's agenda, a presentation by Albany Police Diversity Action and the Alliance Advisory Committee, a team, Chief Harden, John Phillips, and Beth Huber.
All right, while they are getting it up, I'll kind of do the intro here and then let the experts present here. This is a group that I'm proud of. We started it in 2020, June of 2020. I came from a police agency in Washington State where advisory councils were a part of our relationship with the community in the city of Bellevue. And I wanted to start that here as police chief. COVID hit, and the world kind of turned upside down, as we all know. Getting to know people is a little bit of a challenge. But then the killing of George Floyd, I said, I can't wait any longer. So I gathered a group of folks based on who I already knew in the community. Thus, the DAT was born. It's now the DAAT. And we've had a lot of hard conversations over 6 years. So June will be 6 years for us. We meet on a fairly regular basis, usually every other month or at least quarterly. Have, again, good, robust conversations. Sometimes we don't agree, but we all respect each other. And we've been able to make some really good inroads locally. We realize that we have to pay attention to what's happening nationally, but where we have power is locally, and building those relationships. And so we have a chair and co-chair. Beth is the incoming co-chair on the APD side with John Phillips, and I'll let them tell you a little bit about us. And before I do that, can I have the folks from the DAT that are here stand up, please? And our PD folks in the back. So it's a combined team. So they volunteer their time, and sometimes probably have more fun things to do, but they have really good conversations. So I want to thank them for those participants. And Beth and John will take it away. I'll answer any questions they can't. So.
I was a little low. Sorry about that. Okay, as Chief started out, we are the Diversity Alliance and Advisory Team. Yeah. So the background, it was established in 2020 and using the 21st century policing model. Our primary goal is to build trust through our open and honest discussion, and that is one of the pillars of the 21st century policing model. The 21st century policing model has 6 pillars. It was born in about 2014 out of the tragedy out of Ferguson with Michael Brown's shooting. It was determined at that point that something needed to be done, and there was a presidential task force to try to determine what could be done to help relations between communities and police. And through that task force was born the 21st century policing model with 6 primary pillars. And they have found since this started that one of the most important pillars is building the trust and legitimacy. And our primary mission is to strengthen the relationship between the Albany Police Department and our community at large.
So with the, oh, wow, okay, let me scoot back a little bit, sorry. With the core values, these are values that we didn't have these set up right when we started. When we started, it was something that was, I know I can only speak for myself, and also I think that some of the members on the team as well, what we were doing was foreign. And so this is something from the very beginning, how does this look? So as we go, excuse me, and as we progress, these are the core values that we came up with. These are very important ones. There's some that you guys might think that aren't on there. We do talk about it. One thing that, or a couple of them for me, respect and empathy, open conversations. At the very beginning, that was tough because, as Chief said, George Floyd just happened. We were in, excuse me, we were going through a thing called COVID, and we had to learn how to talk to people again, because a lot of us, we were in our houses and that's what we didn't do. So we came together again with George Floyd happening, citizens, police, and, let's be honest, sometimes it's this. So we all wanted to better our community, and these are the things that we go through, and these are the core values that we set up. One that's, we didn't type in there, that we do have on our forms as well, is vulnerability. And with the mutual trust, which is the third from the bottom, that's not a ranking, but with mutual trust, if you don't have that, you can't be vulnerable. And being vulnerable has been crucial to what we do. We've been at this for, it'll be 6 years in June, like Chief said, and a lot of people, most people don't know that this is what was going on.
Right.
We weren't ready though. We had to make sure that we did everything that you see on there and more to further our team and to further what we were doing.
And an important piece about that, with the vulnerability and the mutual trust, those open conversations, one of the things that we believe is critical to that is the fact that we know what we are talking about amongst our group. We talk about very sensitive issues, and many times we talk about them early on before they've really come to through full bloom. And so it's important that those discussions stay in that room and stay amongst us. And we do have that trust among the group that is what happens, and we can have those open conversations, and everything stays right there.
Yeah, that's, there's been a couple times where Chief has called me and letting me know that, hey, something has happened in the community. I want to let you know. And so it was, again, the meetings, the hard conversations, and building the trust, and you know, having the conversations that got us to that place.
These are the team commitments. It's what everyone amongst the team has agreed to for us as a team. Basically, we want to meet at least 5 times a year, and we are looking for the regular activities to have as a group to continue that continuity and communication with us as a group. And we also are working to build and continue to grow our interpersonal relationships to continue to build that trust. And this is a list of all of our current team members in the group.
I do want to, so as you see, all the members are on there, both the citizen and from the police side. When we started in 2020, there are some members that aren't on there right now. And I do want to acknowledge them. Excuse me. I want to acknowledge them because they put in work, even though they're not on this list right now, but they put in work that helped the team get to where they are now, or get to where we are now. And just because they aren't there does not mean that what they brought to the DAAT is ignored or is forgotten. So I definitely want to put that out there. Is it me or you?
You.
Oh, it's me. Okay, all right. So as you see by the 3 bullet points, inspire ongoing trust and communication, act as a model of transparency and collaboration. We ensure that marginalized voices are heard and integrated in policing. The fun stuff. So we've had a lot of successes. As you can see by the top bullet point, this is something that I don't know why I forgot partially, but we met this morning. Creation of the bias crime and bias incident response model that is considered by the Oregon Department of Justice Civil Rights Section as a best practice within the state of Oregon. So that is something that our DAAT team, we talked about, we had numerous discussions about, and I mean, it speaks for itself. So this is something that is, one of our crowning achievements, as you might want to say. And also, it's something that needed to happen. So, and again, if you go back to the core values, what we talked about here with the bias crime model wasn't after like our second meeting. This was after a couple of years of getting to know each other and, having these honest conversations of we need these things in our community.
And then we've also opened lines of communications regarding the immigration enforcement. So as there have been a lot of discussions, especially with the impacts with families within gaps and within the schools and groups throughout the community. And so we try to ensure that the Albany police part in that is clearly understood so that the police are not misunderstood and there's fear that continues that should not be there because because of the immigration enforcement that is going on. We also have the DAP members' participation in hiring and promotion boards. And you can see the other things on the list here. It's the wrong way. There we go. And continued successes. We did host our first ever MLK walk on January 19th of this year. And it was basically it was our first activity as a DAC group. And that is something that we're definitely looking forward to doing next year as well, and already have it set for next year. We also have the Coffee with a Cop, participation in Pride and Juneteenth events, and as far as the coordination with those are largely discussed and done through the DAT.
Excuse me, and then the last bullet point, consistent direct communication through many phone calls and in-person discussions. What I spoke about earlier with Chief calling me, and not just me, but other DAT members when something happens in the community to get ahead of something in the sense of, we don't want you to hear about it second or third hand. This is our community, this is what we work on, we've built this team. So this open communication of, hey, this is happening or this has happened, what does this look like going forward for our community? Any questions?
Counselor Newton?
Yeah, I have two. So you guys have been involved in things like bias response and hiring panels. Where do you see maybe where you can have like a greater influence moving forward? Are you looking at doing anything else in the future or continuing doing more of the same?
Those are things that the group does discuss, and I think the purpose of the group in working for that trust and communication throughout representative groups throughout the community, I think it's important to not necessarily grow too large because every member needs to be very and I'm not going to be able to think of the right word, but it's the very specific communication that needs to occur to continue that trust for each one of the represented groups. And so it's not something that necessarily wants to bloom into something very large. We need to make sure that all groups are represented. So if there's groups that feel like that they are not represented, we would love to hear from them. We continue to discuss that throughout our meetings on, who are we missing, what groups that might need to feel like they have a voice or need to have a voice, and better understand the police. Who are they, and where is their focal representation that could help with that?
Okay, that's fabulous. Quick follow-up. You guys working with DOJ's bias response hotline?
Do we work directly
Do
with
you guys
them?
like recommend people that whenever you're responding to any bias incidents for folks to reach out and fill out the information for the bias response hotline?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Fabulous.
Yep.
And then I guess my last question, if I could be so kind. I'm curious about top priorities for next year and where council could support to make the biggest difference.
So priorities, I know that there's two, as Beth said, is any because we have communities within our big community. And so any of the smaller communities that we have missed by accident, we want to make sure that we get them. And then also is with the MLK walk for next year for 2027. Cat's out of the bag. So we our planning and is going to be for public consumption. So, the first one was just seeing what it looks like, and now we know what we can do. So, because you know what? Albany needs to have an MLK walk, and we are going to have one. So, yes.
Councilor McLeod has something. Are you done first?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you
Councilman
for
McLeod.
being so gracious.
Thank you. Could you please tell us how this group is differs from or intersects with the Public Safety Commission and the Human Relations Commission? How is this group different or the same, and do you work with those two commissions as well?
So I would have to defer on that question.
We actually, this came up at our last meeting. So the Human Relations Commission and the Public Safety Commission are council-driven, city-driven commissions. This is a police department team. It's not subject to open meeting laws, partly because it allows some very open, honest discussion. So much so that we all sign a confidentiality agreement that if somebody shares something very personal in there, or they might be sharing something that's happening to somebody in the community, that unless I'm mandated to act on it, we can discuss as a group and get that person resources. So this is a police department driven group, not a city group driven by the charter or anything like that.
Thank you.
Councilor McGee?
Thank you for the 6 years of work you guys have done. I appreciate that. And I'm happy that it's not city-driven, so that you are not restricted upon certain things. All right.
Hold your applause.
But I do appreciate that, so that you can have things happen organically and not feel restricted in the work that you're doing, because a lot of things have restrictions, i.e. our meeting law. So thank you for that question, Councilor McLeod, and thank you that you guys are not. But if we're ever invited, can we come just to see? Yeah, okay.
Any councilors over here have anything? I have just one thing. So one of the things that I do is in my professional world is I work with seniors. Has the AAT had an opportunity to connect with seniors at any level? I know that I get phone calls. I know that I refer them to the different folks in town, police department, non-emergency line. Have you had a chance to have an engagement with seniors? Well,
No.
just one member.
Well, in the sense of the focus, no. Unless there's a meeting that I missed, which I try not to miss hardly any meetings. I don't believe so. And so that's what, Councilor Newton asked about what our goals are. That's going to be one that we talk about at our next meeting. So
I appreciate
yeah.
that, because I know that especially older women that are by themselves, they're not all, but some I've interacted with are scared of being alone, scared of going to the store by themselves in the evening, go get milk. So it'd be nice, and also they hear things people say about them in public, and they come to me and they're teared up, and it makes me want to throttle somebody. But having a resource like this would be great because I can interact with that. So.
And a part of that is also identifying the appropriate individual that is a good representative for that group. And so that's if there are ideas as far as visiting the webpage and leaving comments, those would be things that we might be looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, councilors.
Can't stop. Presentation, next item, Charlie, is presentation by the Oregon Law Center. It's a verbal presentation. Are they online? Are they here? Okay,
Like in person.
Oh, online and here.
okay.
Give me a second to share our presentation, please.
Does the city recorder have a copy of your presentation?
No, would it be possible to share it immediately following the hearing?
Yeah, you can provide it to me via email.
Okay, thank you. I apologize.
Good evening, Mayor Johnson, President Newton, and members of City Council. My name is Heather Merrick, and I'm with the Oregon Law Center. We really appreciate the invitation that we received to come here and share a little bit about what we learned on license plate readers and in particular how they impact our client community. In case you're not familiar with us, Oregon Law Center is a legal aid nonprofit. We provide free legal services to low-income Oregonians on a variety of matters, ranging from housing to public benefits, domestic violence. And we have 11 offices across the state. We also work very closely with our partner organization, Legal Aid Services of Oregon. And if that sounds familiar, that's because they have an office here in Albany and they just do tremendous work in the community.
It's Albany.
Right across the street, right?
We also work with immigrant communities. We provide services on a range of legal issues from immigration cases to the same sorts of matters, housing, domestic violence. We also work on employment rights, farm worker rights, civil rights. And through that work, we've been hearing from our clients that this is a really difficult time where our communities are experiencing significant fear and I would say terror of immigration enforcement. And there's significant concern about how technologies can be used to enable surveillance and targeting of individuals. So like I said, we're a legal aid organization. We don't typically have positions about things like technology and license plate readers. And we're also aware, we recognize that law enforcement has adopted license plate readers because they see a public safety benefit. That, you know, by now we've all heard cases where license plate readers have been really helpful and useful to law enforcement. But because of the fear that has been expressed by our clients, we wanted to understand how license plate readers might be impacting our communities and what protections might ensure that we're able to enjoy the public safety benefits of license plate readers, but not at the expense of vulnerable community members. Across Oregon, I think local governments and communities alike were surprised to learn that license plate reader data was being used in ways that is contrary to Oregon values, like to enforce abortion bans or for immigration enforcement. And we learned that the Department of Homeland Security was accessing license plate reader data both directly, unbeknownst to local law enforcement, and then also indirectly via out-of-state agencies that were providing, either doing searches on behalf of immigration enforcement or sometimes providing their credentials to federal agents. And I just quickly wanted to draw your attention to a report that from the University of Washington that highlights these issues pretty well. It focuses on Washington, but a lot of the technology is the same. And they concluded that it's quote unquote impossible to conclusively know who's accessing the data and the scope of that access. And we've seen reports in Oregon of immigration enforcement using license plate reader data in ways that are harmful to our community members. And this was acknowledged openly in court. Given the moment we're in during these times, it's incumbent upon us to do everything we can to protect against this sort of misuse. Which brings me to our research. So we took a sampling of data from jurisdictions across the state. And these are jurisdictions where we have clients who were concerned about these technologies and also where we just knew that these technologies were being used. They're not being used everywhere. And so you'll see that Albany was among the jurisdictions, but Albany was not a particular focal point. However, we do know that license plate readers and also immigration enforcement more specifically is a concern in this community. And we know that the harms of immigration enforcement have been something of great concern. For instance, with the resolution that this council adopted regarding supporting immigrant community members. Some broad themes, and then I'll get into the local data, but we found pretty consistent findings. Local police departments understood that they owned and controlled their own data, and they were surprised to learn how it was being accessed and used. The uses were sometimes impermissible under Oregon law, for instance, for immigration enforcement. And every jurisdiction that we surveyed in that list had at some point last year been sharing their data nationwide, whether they knew it or not at the time, meaning that agencies outside of the state of Oregon were accessing their data. And so what everyone actually wanted me to talk about, which is the Albany data. So we did request data from the Albany Police Department. These are public records that were of the license plate reader data from the flock system. And we looked at a few different months, partially just for when data was available for the different jurisdictions. And so one that we looked at deeply was the month of June 2025. You'll see that federal immigration officials directly accessed data that included Albany's networks 197 times. And there were searches conducted on behalf of federal immigration officials 358 times. The most recent data that we had was for the last 2 weeks of December. And so you'll see that there were more than 2,500 agencies that were conducting searches that included Albany data. Almost all of them were outside of the state of Oregon. There were still queries being done on behalf of immigration enforcement. So we note searches on behalf of ICE and CBP. We also noted searches on behalf of the U.S. Marshals. And historically, the Marshals have, and they continue to engage in law enforcement that isn't always immigration related. But the reason we thought this was noteworthy is that the Marshals have been deputized to assist with immigration enforcement. And so, just recognizing that these times are a little different than in the past. And in Oregon, we've seen the Marshals involved in detaining individuals on purely immigration matters. And I wanted to bounce back to the prior slide to make a similar point regarding Homeland Security investigations. That's the law enforcement arm of ICE. And although they have often been involved in criminal investigations for things that aren't necessarily about immigration specifically, they, by executive order from the president, their top priority is now immigrant detention and removal, and officers have been overwhelmingly reassigned to those duties. And so, again, like these searches, 131 of them for Homeland Security investigations, it's difficult for us to know what those were for, but we do know that at least at this point, it's more likely than it was in the past that it was for something immigration related. Talking a lot about the data, I thought I would demystify it a little bit and just show a snapshot of what we were looking at. So this is from a network audit. These are the audits of searches that were done by out-of-state agencies and also agencies outside of Albany. So they could also be in Oregon, but the ones that were particularly concerning to us were out of state. And so you'll see the second column are the agency names that conducted these searches. The third one down is Border Patrol. The next two columns are the total network searched and the total devices searched. And so what we generally saw was that these searches would be they would be casting a wide net over many jurisdictions. So they weren't necessarily focusing on Albany in particular, but it would include Albany data. And we don't know just from this information whether an Albany resident was the target. The license plate is redacted for one for privacy purposes under public records law. But also we just don't know how this data was ultimately used. But what we do know is that Albany data was available for this sort of searches that were for immigration-related matters, and that this is a significant vulnerability. And if a search is conducted for immigration purposes of an Albany resident, once that search has been done and that information has been revealed, the bell cannot be unrun. And so we think that this is sufficiently concerning, even without knowing exactly how it ended, to highlight it. The last thing I wanted to point out from this slide is the reason field. So this is the substance of our presentation, right? These are the purposes that were provided for each search. So you'll see immigration, ICE. This third one down for Border Patrol, that's a statute, 8 USC 1326. That's the offense of illegal reentry. So that's a purely immigration-related offense. That's not like a drug matter or a person crime. It's just about immigration. So the legislature was concerned about these trends and recognized this is a problem bigger than just one company. And so during this short session, they passed Senate Bill 1516, which has now gone into effect. It went into effect upon signage. Your city attorney will best advise you of what all it requires, but a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. It places some restrictions on use and sharing of data and how long the data can be stored. And then it requires that future agreements with vendors or when they're being renewed, when contracts are renewed, that they ensure local control over data. But that's future looking. It's not existing contracts. So these are just baseline protections. They're the bare minimum. And there are still important conversations that communities need to be having around when we're using these technologies and how we're going to prevent harm to our community members. For instance, under the current law, data can still be shared with federal officials, so long as they don't provide that their purpose is for immigration enforcement, as long as they can provide some offense, no matter how minor, and even if it's pretextual. And what we're hearing from our clients is there's real concern about that. There's also the question of what to do with existing contracts. Like I said, this is just forward-looking, the contracts, and so it doesn't change anything about existing contracts. But a lot of communities have decided to not wait to protect their community members' data. So Bend, Springfield, Lane County, Woodburn, they've all ceased use of the license plate readers under their current agreements. Eugene terminated its contract midway through, which from what we've seen is pretty common with, they were contracting with Flock. That's pretty common that they could do that with 30 days notice. And another thing I wanted to mention that Eugene is doing that I think is interesting is they've called for a work session on mass surveillance more broadly because they've recognized that we need to have a more systematic, careful approach for how we're adopting technologies generally to ensure that we're not going to just repeat the same mistakes when we adopt something new that's very complicated that we don't yet fully understand. Which brings me to some closing points. So I think there's a real temptation to just, kind of focus on particular vendors or license plate readers in particular. But this occurred in a broader context. And if we don't address like the underlying circumstances that allowed this to occur, then we're likely to repeat this again. We're dealing with extremely complex technologies. We're implementing them pretty quickly, sometimes without full public discussion. We're collecting massive amounts of data. The data is sensitive and personal in nature. It tells a lot about a person. Like with license plate readers, we're talking about, where people go. You can, determine from that often where people live and work and get health care, who else went to the same place at the same time. And then we're, it's really telling when you have it over a long period and when you aggregate it with other databases, like law enforcement often have access to DMV data, for example. And this data is being shared across thousands of jurisdictions with entities and individuals who,
So my concern is Albany's data. So when you finish, I'm gonna have my chief refresh us on her findings are. Thank you.
yes.
Oh, no, go ahead and finish, please.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. Again, this data is being shared with entities and individuals who maybe don't have the same legal obligations that we do in Oregon or may not share our values. And so this is an opportunity for us to do better and be more sophisticated consumers of technology. And so there's a balance that our communities need to strike. On the one hand, providing law enforcement with tools to do their work expeditiously and efficiently, but in a way that is respectful of privacy and civil rights. And I guess if there's one thing that I hope council will take away from this presentation, it's that we need to ensure community safety means community safety for everybody, particularly our most vulnerable community members. And, during these times, we cannot rely on third parties to protect our information for us. We have a responsibility to protect community members, children, families from harm. And so with that, I will leave remaining time for questions or discussion. Thank you.
So Counselor Newton.
Yeah, okay, so my understanding is that some of this data that you presented has already been confirmed by Hans Boyle of the DH. So I'm curious from a policy standpoint of the guardrails you mentioned, data sharing limits, retention audits, which would actually change the kind of access to Albany residents' data that you showed earlier, and which would still be outside of local control?
The statute, as I understand it, just provides baseline protections. And so I think that communities are free to have discussion about what protections they would like to see. I don't understand the law to preclude any kind of protections. And so I think what we would emphasize is just the importance of having these discussions with the community to ensure that the community is receiving the protections that they believe will protect their information and strike that right balance.
And that piece of legislation that was passed during the short session, it isn't as stringent as, say, some other states of what they've passed. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. For instance, Washington State enacted a law that was more restrictive on when license plate reader data could be used. For example, requiring that it be for more serious offenses, not for any kind of minor offense. And then also more restrictive in terms of the retention period so that there wouldn't be so much information that could be searched, documenting so much of people's movements, but still allowing sufficient information for law enforcement to, if they learn about an offense, to run it through the hot list and see if they can locate the vehicle.
We could always look at other states and what laws they've enacted and see how that could inform our general policy if that's the direction we want to go.
Counselor McLeod.
Thank you. I would just like some clarification. And did I hear you correctly at the beginning of your presentation when you said, and I'll paraphrase, that outside agencies are providing federal officers with their login information to access our
That's alarming.
ALPR data directly?
We learned about that through news reporting. So that wasn't something that we saw directly from the audits, but that's my understanding from national news, and I could provide follow-up information to council about that.
I would love to have details on that, how we know that happened, what proof there was that it happened so that it can be verified. It's very alarming, but I would like details on that.
We all would, I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor McGee, I'll go to you next. Over next.
You stated that once the bell is rung, that we can't do anything about it. So my question is regarding things that have already happened and the storage of that information that those particular agencies already have. Was it kind of like a hacking type of thing, or was it just a sharing space?
I understand that agencies access the data through permissions that they legitimately had, with the exception of federal law enforcement using credentials of another agency. I don't know that that was compliant with the flock contract. That exceeds the information I have. But the information that I provided didn't include any situations of hacking that I'm aware of.
And one other question. This was you said the University of Washington did this for, was it 6 months? Or you showed two different things, June 1 through June 30th, then December. So was it like a 6 month, how long was the data collected?
So the University of Washington report, that was, and it's confusing because of where I put it in the presentation, that was a separate analysis of Washington data, which tracks with what we saw in national reporting and what we saw in Oregon. Same trends, same issues. The data from June and December is the public records that we had requested from Albany. And so we picked those months. We did have a span of months. We focused on those months in particular across jurisdictions because we had June for everybody, and then December was the most recent data we received. So we wanted to see, well, is this still occurring?
So it wasn't ongoing, it was just 1 month and then another 1 month?
Exactly.
Interesting, okay.
Councilor Smith.
Thank you. I may have misunderstood something that you said in relation to outside agencies providing federal agencies with their login information. What I heard you say about how you knew that was, that's my understanding from national news.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes, Counselor.
Okay, thank you.
And I will provide that source for that information. I'm sorry I don't have it before me at the moment.
Any other counselors?
I have a quick follow-up. There was a city council meeting, if you guys ever watch other city council meetings, it's fun. There was one in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, back on the 26th, and Flock actually did a presentation. I just wanted to confirm with you guys if this was also your knowledge. They mentioned that the data is end-to-end encrypted, but they actually still have access to the data. It's like the way the encryption works, it still goes from point A to point B, but then they still have access to the data. It can still use it like either to train AI models or to share that data with other entities. Do you know if this company has shared data or used it to train AI models?
I don't have information about that. I know that the organization Eyes Off Eugene has done significant research into the end-to-end encryption issue, and so I would direct counsel to them as a pretty authoritative source about it.
Okay, thank you.
Eyes Off Eugene.
Eyes Off
Yes.
Eugene.
So for me, I'd like to hear about our data that you know about, Chief. You're our top officer. Who's going to speak? Oh,
Sorry,
oh,
I was a little
go
bit
ahead.
late. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. So to summarize, I just want to highlight something I think you mentioned in respect to, we've had Senate Bill 1516 at the state level, and your suggestion is to have, the community should have a kind of a robust discussion amongst themselves about the use of these cameras. I suppose we should probably talk about all kinds of surveillance, perhaps, as well. Did that summarize that correctly, what you?
Yes, you say it
Suggestion would
better,
be-
Counselor.
Okay.
That's what we would suggest.
Okay, just want to make that clear, okay.
So Chief, do you have any information that we could leverage or understand? Yes.
I'm also going to invite our CTO, Sean Park, to come up.
Okay.
The council had questions last time about cybersecurity and that, and he's done some research as well. You should have a packet that's gone around from the clerk. I apologize for the delay. Some of the information just came in last night, so I couldn't get included in the packet. But I want to first thank the Oregon Law Center. They were at the table when we were negotiating this bill in the state legislature. And so I think we all found some common ground. I would agree, as most people should agree, that unregulated technology is never a good place to be. Particularly with the rapid advancements of technology, we're always having discussions about how can we integrate AI into our city services and that, what does that look like? How can we secure it, and so on and so forth. So when the letter came out to the state legislature for the short session, some alarm bells went off for me. And I think we reported back at that time that when we took an initial look at the data, there are some concerning flags that went up for me. One is that numbers were identical across jurisdictions. And I think even the Oregon Law Center and our own review and multiple meetings with Flock, that we're in a big pool of agencies that dump data. And so everybody throws information into this pool, and one person goes and looks for license plate ABC 123, and it's going to hit all of those. If you saw in the log that was in the counselor's presentation, some of those are 6,000 types of data sets that we participated as a part of a program called the National Lookup. So there's three things at play here. There's federal pilot program, which we talked about in the last meeting. Flock ran a short pilot in June, terminated that based on the impacts to states that will have laws like we do. So that came to an end. That restricted any federal access as individual or primary login, as well as the National Lookup. Now that's a reciprocal program that we were a participant in, but we had worked with Flock to ensure that there's some filters in place for immigration and things like that. And one of the things we discovered that those filters weren't catching everything, obviously. So in December, we moved to back out of the National Lookup and be in Oregon only. Now, the Senate bill that was passed and signed by Governor Kotek now restricts that by state law. We cannot share data outside the state of Oregon. In fact, you'll see on page 2 of the handout I gave you, those are the current login credentials. We cannot even turn on National Lookup as a customer of Flock. Also, pardon my apologies to our Flock representatives in the room. They are here to answer any questions that you have about their products as well. But a couple points I want to bring forward. First of all, before the law changed, our policy, which I know the city manager sent to you, showed us that we were compliant and had strict standards even before the state law passed. We were at 30-day retention. We restricted use of the technology. It had to be for criminal justice purposes only. And as the Oregon Law Center pointed out as well, we need to be really careful about login information. So to get into the system, also on page 2, you'll see that there's an acceptance that the participant has to accept to log into the system. And there's 2-factor authentication. So we have to use that little code to log into our emails. That has to apply for Flock as well. So literally handing out credentials, unless there's a federal agent sitting right next to me, they are going to have that secondary login information to log into our accounts. Our current policy, which we brought up to date, there was just a few tweaks that we had to make with the new state law. The new state law allows LPR technology to run registration checks and check for people's compliance with your insurance. That's not a crime. I want this restricted to criminal investigations only, so our policy restricts that access. So we're stricter than state law in looking at how it's going to be used. The national audit logs, and when we got the public records request from OLC, we didn't have those logs at the time. We ran those reports proactively after we got the public records request and handed them over to the Oregon Law Center, even though we were not obligated to by the public records request, because we didn't have that data at the time. So we've been very transparent. We have a webpage up there for the public to try to educate the public in regards. And all parties negotiated the outcome of this bill, which is not a restriction and non-use of LPR technology in the state. It's a guardrails, which I completely agree with. The Oregon Law Center agreed with, the Chiefs Association, the Sheriff's Association, all agreed that we can't just have it unregulated. So this is where we landed with the law. So I'm committed to continue that level of transparency and abidance by the laws, where I will come and meet with council on a monthly basis and report out on what those logs show. Because we do, you saw a sampling in the presentation of what the national lookup log looks like. And when we saw the notation about the ICE search in December, even though we had restricted what we could have and federal sharing was turned off, we took a look at that. On page 1 of your packet, you'll see a web page from the Loudoun County, Georgia Sheriff's Office. The entry that was shown on our log for ICE team made on November 5th of 2025 is the Interstate Criminal Enforcement Team out of Loudoun County, Georgia, not a federal entity and not an immigration search at all. So we called that sheriff's office and they confirmed to us that it was a drug-related thing, and they're gotten into similar calls. Apparently, they're thinking of changing their name.
Yeah, probably should.
So that entry noted in that Oregon Law Center entry is not even ICE-related. So that's the level of scrutiny that I can go in and take a look at these logs. Additionally, yes, HSI has a relationship, and as I reported to the council back in earlier this year at an earlier meeting, I can go in and take a look at some of this information. And there was an entry also in December for HSI CSAM. And CSAM is often a acronym for Child Exploitation Investigations, which HSI has a major part in across the country, including some of our cases that I've briefed the council on already. So I talked to the Port Huron Police Department in Michigan, which sits right on the US-Canadian border. And without them disclosing sensitive information about their case, that was a child exploitation, human trafficking case across the US-Canadian border. So that's the level of scrutiny that we can go and look at these logs on that. So it's totally unrelated to immigration. I bring that up amongst other things that we've been able to track down. I know we have a long drive for some of you, so I want to make sure that the data is, I get that, hey, oh, this red flag, but we're making some assumptions about the intent behind a inquiry into that system that is not accurate. And so it's concerning to me. I'm going to be, as I told you, I'm going to be very concerned about that, concerning my commitment to the Oregon sanctuary laws in the state and my involvement in some of those meetings and the like. So that's going to raise a flag for me too. And so I went and took a look at that. I think the important thing that I asked the council to think about is the context. I encourage you to look at the University of Washington report and the subheaders and supporting information in there. And I've looked at this document many times, even as I'm an alumni there. I know they do good work, but one of the things that stood out to me that I think it's important for us to walk away from is that even though they put some context around the concern about what these logs show, and I'm going to quote from that report, as noted above, flock audits do not give any indication of the results of the searches, so it's impossible to know and is not known whether the information yielded in these searches resulted in actual immigration enforcement activities through the UW-CHR has requested additional public records potentially associated with these searches. That's what I can do. I can go back to the agencies and say, hey, on this such and such date, you made an inquiry. Can you just give me an idea what it involves? Now, with some improved audits and capabilities within Flock, we can actually go and pinpoint. The person making the inquiry has to use a drop-down menu that indicates a crime type classification. So it used to be called Uniform Crime Reporting, now it's called NIBRS. So we report these statistics to the FBI. We have to use the drop-down to decide what we're going to use that data for. And so that very quickly points to a crime. And our policy in specific there might be a case number or some sort of reference there, allows me to go back and quickly audit that information. Now that we're restricted by law to Oregon only, and any vendor is the same, that will shorten that amount of searches that have to be done, because we're not looking at 6,000 agencies, we're looking at maybe 20. Currently, there's 20. So I appreciate the work and people raising proper concerns, but I think that the data has some flaws to it. And to assume that we are handing our credentials over to federal agencies to log into the system, or that we're ignoring potential searches on our system, which end up not even being immigration related, is a bit of a pause for me. I think you know me well enough, and I heard last meeting that you trust me enough. I'm going to be very diligent about this technology and any technology that we use. This actually made us take a look at everything that we're using, all the way down to photo enforcement, making sure that we're protecting that information. So we are making some system improvements, making sure that not only we're holding Flock accountable to it with their login protocols, you have a screenshot of what is turned on and what is turned off. Under the search features, you will not see national lookup even listed. They took it away as an option for us. I will let Sean Park speak to the CGIS compliant and CyberSound entities of this. I'll let him speak, but I'm always looking to them, is this a safe product for us to use? Is it secure? Do we have enough to do that? And then additionally, we are committed to having public discussion. I briefed the Public Safety Commission on this, and so we're aware of how it worked. We demoed it. We can demo it for the council tonight. Captain Drum is here and will show you how the system works in live time. And then also in your packet, you're seeing multiple letters of support. The thing that I think is important to point out is we never see any faces on this. We're literally looking at license plate numbers and maybe a vehicle type. It is, of all the technologies out there that is tracking us, including all of our smartwatches and that are unregulated, then we are regulated on that. And I think there's some good safeguards in place, and I think that it might be a good time to resume the program with the assurance that I will come back every month and brief the council on the status of the program. I'll let Sean Park talk.
Oh, thank you, Chief. I enjoyed a characterization she made of me of generally skeptical within her notes of surveillance technology in general, especially as it relates to corporate surveillance, but this is more related to law enforcement, and it's a different animal.
Close to the microphone.
I had extensive conversations with Flock. Is that better? Yeah. All right. Extensive conversations with Flock technical staff, regarding the security of their data centers, the end-to-end system security. And more importantly, the level of security controls that the agency itself has over what happens with the data of the city. And I came away from those conversations reassured that the controls that Marcia's team has over the system within the department are controls that I wish we had across several of our applications across the city. They're robust, they're audited, and they're an example for what we should have in many other different areas of our business.
If the council would like, I would ask the flock representative to step up. You're welcome to ask them any question you'd like.
Council? Sure,
Yep, okay.
I didn't know, when were they invited? Who invited them?
you did.
Okay. I had a few questions, actually. Actually, maybe not questions. The data was confirmed. I understand that you're saying that you're questioning some of the data. It was confirmed. I find it just very, we can shore up things, but I just found that really dismissive of the hard work that has been done analyzing and bringing forth this data. Also, in regards to two-factor authentication, like I've called my husband for like a code, like, hey, baby, or text the code, give me the code. It's not a long stretch that someone would do that with something else. No one's saying that Albany Police is doing that at all, by any stretch of the mind. It's just that that's been a vulnerability that's happened maybe in other instances. No one was saying it was Albany Police. And if my research is accurate, I'm fairly certain it is, faces are still seen, other data is still collected. It's not just.
It's the rear of the vehicle. If you'd like, Captain Drum can come up and demonstrate a search for you in live time. Is the rear of the vehicle. There's no face. You might be confusing with photo enforcement that does collect the face. We need that for the court purposes, but they are the rear of the vehicle. As far as the data is concerned, yeah, first of all, we had multiple discussions with Flock. Sean went through and looked at the data separately than myself. I went the extra mile of picking out the red flag items, trying to verify that they were federal inquiries or not federal inquiries. Clearly, the one ICE search in December is not even related to the federal government. So context, I question the context of the research done. What we believe has happened is that you get a data sheet and you go, oh, ICE, here's a count in this category, no context about the case whatsoever. So I push back on the accuracy and context of the data, not the fact that the spreadsheets are wrong.
Okay.
If I could offer a comment on Councilor Newton's comment regarding the sharing of codes and logins and those sorts of things. The one element that kind of keeps us up at night in IT is what we kind of sometimes refer to as the analog wolf. That's the person in the process. And we're always concerned about shared logins or breaches in that way. And what we can't do is stop somebody from doing something illegal. The sharing of that credential would be illegal, under my understanding. And that's the human element is something we'll never be able to control for. But we can do everything we can up to that point to try to keep it reined in.
I also just a comment about data and verifying and reliability. As someone who's a former journalist, you do go through a lot of scrutiny of researching, re-verifying. I think that it is always good to question data, just in a general sense. I think it is always good to have multiple means of verification, but I also think that it's very good to question data and have context behind data. Because what we're not seeing is the qualitative side of it, we're seeing the quantitative side. And we are missing that piece. So I think as a researcher mind, I think that context is very key. And thank you for all of you all for breaking it down as best you can to us and to folks who are watching or will watch. I think the biggest concern is that, we were just, I think that if you see something like that, it does make you think if there's something more sinister at play with our data or our citizens and our residents here. That is what we are most concerned about. But I think this is a good opening ground for how and what we should be doing and what our vulnerabilities are. So I do appreciate the work that all of you've done, from the Oregon Law Center to our data person to our chief, and obviously the flock folk. Thank you for coming and getting ready to take our questions. So I'm glad that they are here, because I think that we can directly ask what we need to ask of them too. Appreciate that.
Thank you all. Thank you all. So I'll have them take the floor and wrap things up.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, council members. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Lily Ho. I'm the Public Affairs Manager for Flock Safety. And my role is typically to work with communities, engage communities, and elected officials to inform what Flock does and does not do, and how we can help support public safety in your communities. I'm happy to answer anything you have.
So, Chief mentioned that there's no way that you can share our data with anyone. Is that correct?
Well, since the new legislation stepped in, we created guardrails around the state of Oregon to ensure that local agencies are complying now with local state law, which includes not sharing with outside agencies outside of the state of Oregon.
Do you see instances of outside entities trying to break into your data to get to other data or anything like that, intrusions at all?
Yeah, at this point, agencies outside of Oregon cannot enter or share with Oregon, cannot request to share, Oregon agencies to share with them either.
So Mayor, how that looks like in policy is that, like with other systems that have protections, LEDS is an example that we are given strict authorization and access to that data, so similar to this new law. So if Redding, California said, hey, can you check your flock data for any cameras in Southern Oregon, they'd actually have to call that police department, give the legitimate criminal justice need for that information, and then make the inquiry human to human. They wouldn't have access to that information. Now, there are entities where you might see one-to-one reciprocal, so where that might take place is someplace in Portland and Vancouver. Now, both states have restrictions, right? But I believe that it allows for one-to-one reciprocal because they're in an adjoining jurisdiction. But that's not going to apply to us because of where we're at in the state. But I think that's the only exception to that share. There's basically a geofence around Oregon that limits who we can share with. We're only sharing with other Oregon entities. And there's even walls between different vendors. So Oregon State Police uses Axon LPR readers in their vehicles. We're not in the same shared database. So unless it's a hot list item, we still have to call them and say, hey, if you come across this plate in your license plate reader, there's not one central big one that we're all sharing amongst the vendors.
Is our data used for AI training or to improve any AI models?
Yes, there's a feature with the Flock ALPR readers. So in addition to reading just license plates, we can read partial plates. And oftentimes, in a situation of a crime, a victim may not catch the entire plate number or even the plate number at all. So one of the features that we have is called vehicle signature. So a victim can identify, for example, a red truck with a toolbox inside. And that's a characteristic that law enforcement can put into the system along with the case number and along with the search reason. That's a NEBRIS search reason. And vehicles with, say, that red truck with a toolbox may appear. And it can zone into specific time zones and locations like a specific camera, for example. And that is part of our AI model training. And it's used to read things like E versus the letter A. And if the Toyota Camry, for example, is a model of a vehicle that changes throughout time, if you type in Toyota Camry, it will pull up all of the Toyota Camrys that all of the Toyota Camrys have made.
So derived data sets that are created from our data, who owns those?
The data is owned by the customer, so Albany PD owns the data.
Okay, and I've heard that the flock system is described as end-to-end encrypted.
Correct.
Who specifically holds the encryption keys? And under which circumstances is Flock able to access customer data?
Flock may access a limited number of Flock employees can access customer data, for example, for technical reasons, and also if requested by the customer. If for some reason there's a specific type of data from a specific range that the police officers would like to reserve or save, and they cannot get to their system for whatever reason, we can do that on your behalf if there's if that request is made. And for end-to-end encryption, we do follow established NIST cybersecurity protocols, and we are also SOC 2 and DAA and FERPA compliant.
Okay, so has Flock ever provided data directly to a third party?
Not without the customer's consent, no.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that some Flock employees can access the raw data.
Flock employees can access data for technical reasons. If we are, say, there's a technical reason to.
At the request of the,
At the request of the customer.
So
Thank
an
you.
example of where this is, our data settings, and now state law requires that we only hold the data for 30 days. If something happens per se, or the system goes down, or we don't have limited access, a great example is the current pause we're in, is going and getting information. We might be able to get some of that, but even the network data logs, yes, they're redacted. They're even redacted for me. So I don't even know what plate they're run. I had to call those police agencies and say, hey, was this you and what was the purpose of it? Just to verify that it was not immigration related. They will have it on their internal logs of who ran a plate when, but the actual reads and anything else not searched for is gone within 30 days. We would have very narrow reasons for going and getting that because it's not accessible after 30 days.
Okay, so if data is misused or improperly shared, let's just say hypothetically that happens, right? What liability does Flock take on? What remedies would the city have if that were to happen to us?
What do you mean by improperly shared?
Like there was a hacking incident or something was leaked or I don't know, an employee shared data with the federal administration or something, you know, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out legality-wise, like what the company accepts as part of their responsibility and what we would
That
as
might
well.
be a Sean Kidd question. We do, in our current contract, we do have some protections in place, and the new state law also has some civil remedies in place for violation of our laws.
Okay.
Council, any questions, comments? Council Smith.
We have had one Flock camera in service, is that correct?
Correct.
That camera was stolen, is that correct?
Correct.
Do we plan to replace it?
If you turn the cameras back on, yes. That and 3 more.
Isn't it already replaced?
It is not replaced.
Has it been ordered?
Has the replacement camera been ordered?
Yes.
Yes.
How long has it been shut off by now?
I think we turned it off on February 26th.
Do you have any idea what you've missed?
No
in
idea.
that time?
Yeah, no idea.
What would it take to overturn that decision? Do we have Sean or Eric? Can you help me with that?
The council could make a motion tonight to turn the camera back on once it's
or I guess it's ordered once we have it back, I guess, you can make a motion to have them activated again. Obviously, well, right.
Council, the motion directed us to suspend the operation of all automated license plate reader cameras pending further council action. So further council action would be a motion to reverse that, to lift that suspension.
I think that we have hampered law enforcement activities in Albany by shutting that camera off. And I believe that there's more good in collecting the limited types of data that we can collect from one camera that looks at the back end of a vehicle than harm that can be done from that.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So we have 4 total. We didn't install the other 3.
Right.
Pending some placement paperwork we had to do with the city, right-of-way permits. So the other 3 are just dormant until we get direction.
I would include all 4 cameras in my motion. I think it does more good than harm. I believe it does more good than harm. Police officers used to drive around town and look for things on their own. They had no radios. They had nothing but gut instinct and intuition and just waiting for somebody to tell them that something was wrong. Now we look at the stuff that hang off of a police officer's body during the course of the day. Though that's all technology that's helping them protect us. And I believe this is the next step. And I just really do believe it's better than not being there. So I would make a motion to reestablish the flock cameras, turn it back on, place the other 3 when we have a place to put them, and let's get back with that contract and help APD do its work. That's a complicated motion, I apologize, but let's just rescind overturn the previous decision and reinstate the camera.
I just have a question regarding your motion, Counselor. Are we also, or could you please include the chief is going to give us, you said monthly updates?
Happy to do so.
Please include that, and also in that motion, if you don't mind, also including, I think one of the things Counselor Newton was trying to get to was that she wanted to hear some community voices or community conversations around that. So if there's a way to get, obviously, you know, you can't be having community conversations every week. I mean, you could, but that's a lot. But if there's a way to get some type of community involvement regarding the flock cameras or feelings about it or whatever, I think that's the spirit of what Councilor Newton was trying to get to. Am I incorrect?
Yeah, I'd like to see us determine what our policies are and talk to our constituents and talk to our community before we make any further action. I think that it's important to do that before hastily turning something on after we turned it off just fairly recently.
Councilor Thompson has a question.
Yeah, you all have kind of stole my thunder. That's why on following up the suggestions of the Oregon Law Center, you know, we can't direct the police chief to do something. We can ask the city manager. I think some conversations need to happen before we bring this back. This was a good discussion, a thorough discussion. I know you're gonna have to do it again, but we gotta hear that. Other people gotta hear that.
So we do have a motion, and I have not asked for a second yet. There's no second. You have something, Councilor?
So the only thing that I'll add to the other good points that I've heard is that I think that as part of any action to turn the thing back on, as it were, we need to have some clear policy about placement. There's been some good constituent feedback recently about where the appropriate place for such cameras are if we're going to operate them. And I think that just saying, let's go, let's turn it back on without having that discussion is premature.
Just to give you some information on that, when those 4 cameras were obtained under a CJC grant from the state of Oregon for organized retail theft. So the initial spots we're considering are kind of our hot zones around those areas. Walmart, Goldfish, Farm Road, Waverly, and Clay. All areas that we are constantly going to for theft cases. And so we were trying to make those placements based on the spirit of the grant that we received.
Oh yeah, understood, and no issue with that. If that's what we received the grant for, then that makes total sense. I think we need to have a broader conversation than just that, though, in light of some of the topics that have come up.
Sure. And then additionally, just so the council's aware, it was on the agenda for the committee or the Public Safety Commission. We didn't have quorum. So the next meeting for that is not until June. So we will be suspended until June. I just want to make sure the council's aware of that. That's another location where you would get feedback from constituents. We also have the FAQ page that's available on our website for folks.
Councilor Smith, you want to do anything with your motion for now? Or we'll call for a second?
I'll call for a second.
I'll call for a second.
Okay.
So
anyone can second it at any time.
Yeah, we have a motion and we have a second.
Did you, Councilor Smith, did you want to include the?
I wanted to include the monthly reports, yes.
Okay, so can you just say it one more time?
Can you restate the motion?
I would move to restart the flock contract with monthly reports from the police department about what it's doing.
I have a motion and do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
No, roll call, please.
Counselor McLeod,
Nay.
Counselor Smith,
Yes.
Counselor McGee,
Yep.
Counselor Newton,
Nope.
Counselor Thompson,
No.
Counselor Van Dremelen,
No.
Thank you. Next on tonight's agenda is the vote.
Mayor, real quick,
yes.
can I ask the council for direction on what you wanted me to tell the public when we can't use this technology to help them?
We want their input, right?
I just have a question. You said public safety doesn't meet until June,
Correct.
mid-June, beginning June?
It's usually the first Tuesday, first Wednesday in June, I believe. We can bring it up, but it's in June.
So that's one question. And the other piece is, yes, we want community voices. Obviously, we need those. But then my other question is then how long do we want to have these community voices happening? Wow, because my concern is I don't want to impede as a council any type of investigation or anything that you need to keep our city safe and the folks. So how long do we want to have community voices going on council?
That's a good question.
I think it'd be great for us to have community conversations over, bring this to the Public Safety Commission. Have the community conversations May, June, and talk. And as far as what you can tell the public is, hey, this is private data. We want to make sure that we're keeping our citizens safe and that we have accurate policies and things that reflect the values of Albany in place. We would like your input. Until then, these are turned off.
One correction, license plates are not private data. They're very public data.
It's still tracking who's going to a place. It's still surveillance. It's still, Trotson's car went to Walmart at the same time as Sean Kids. Oh no, they're both buying the same matching t-shirts, for something. You know what I mean?
Yes, I heard that, but little Johnny was taken from school today and it was this colored car and took it.
That's what I'm trying to see. So if you're saying we want community conversations in May, they're not meeting in May. So then, or in May, are we supposed
We can facilitate community conversations from the city and then bring that information to the Public Safety Commission.
So in May, we're gonna have, I just wanna make sure I'm
I
understanding
don't know
this.
how, I don't know how quick our team can spool up community conversations.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because we need the community to show up and actually give feed forward so that I am nervous about impeding anything that's gonna keep the city safe, personally.
Especially when kids are out of school and someone picks up one of those children. I saw a red car, Honda Civic, I got part of the license plate. We can't help you.
That's my thing. So if we're gonna be having, is it wrong to have community voices while the cameras are on? I mean,
No.
no, it's not wrong, or no, you don't?
No, I don't think they should be on. I'm also wanting to state that people that are like, I feel like this is using like a weird boogeyman argument of saying like, oh, someone's gonna steal the children off the street. Usually whenever a child is taken or abducted, it's usually someone that knows them.
I'm not talking about
Like
that.
statistically, crimes that are perpetrated
I'm
on
not
children.
concerned, I'm just talking about broader. I'm not going into specifics. I'm just saying, I want to know how long we need to have the community voices. So you're saying we need to have the community voices in May and then bring it to June and talk and have whatever they say, and then we're gonna turn the cameras back on in July. By that time, we're in midsummer. I'm just trying to draw the timeline here.
We'll see where the timeline goes. Looks like Michael Thompson's arm's about to fall off though.
Yeah, it's April. I would humbly suggest you have the month of May. It doesn't have to be at the Public Safety Commission. I don't, it's not up to us to tell what I'm asking. I think what the four of us would be asking is the city manager to direct some community conversations about the use of these flock cameras. And the chief will probably do a great job and explain it to people just like you did tonight. I don't think it's that complicated.
So are we giving direction today to have those conversations? Having city manager, some people out to have those conversations? There? Is that what we want?
Yes.
Okay, so
Wait, what she was trying to say, so we're having, I need to understand the timeline. I'm sorry, it's a lot going on and we don't have a timeline and when we're supposed to get them on or back
Excuse
on.
me, please step away from the dais.
So
Give your
are
data
we,
to the city recorder.
are we saying, Counselor Thompson, that we want to have our community conversations in the month of May? Yes? Is this what I'm understanding?
Yeah, if as quickly as possible.
All right, so ASAP, I'm guessing in the month of May. And then I'm guessing in June, we're gonna have some sort of, we'll talk about what happened in the community conversations in June. And then from there, we'll have some sort of policy of how we want to move forward also in June. So then at some point, the cameras may come on in June. I'm sorry, I just need to know, I'm a logical person, I need to know a time.
Sounds like a plan to
I
me.
think that I don't want to be tied to one specific timeline because we're building the rocket ship as we're taking off right now. This isn't something that's pre-planned. So
I prefer to have a timeline only because I think the longer they're off, as the chief said, that we don't know what we've missed, and that's a concern to me.
And I'd like to ask the council for some direction on what they're looking for in that feedback. I don't like them, and again, I think we spent the better part of the last hour plus talking about misinformation. What does that look like? If one person speaks up and says no, what does that look like? We've had lots of discussions with the community over the last couple months since this came up in December. So I'm just looking for some direction on what it will take to convince the body here that the feedback has been met.
So should the council come up with questions for the community? Or should we let the professionals do it?
I have a lot of professional expertise. I'm happy to suggest some questions as well.
I think the question is, what are you looking for?
Right. Councilman Howard?
So instead of asking the community questions, I think the community should be asking us questions. I think we need to be doing more listening than talking, and so I think we just need to gather the community to get their input on what they think is happening And if there is misinformation, then that would be an opportunity for us to correct it. But in large, we need to be doing more listening than talking.
So, Council, what do you recommend? Getting folks together to talk about it? They have them give their feedback?
I don't have a recommendation.
They make me uncomfortable. I've said this for the last 2 years. They make me uncomfortable. I don't.
Say that again?
This makes me uncomfortable. Like, I have the same feelings I had over, 2-3 years ago when we first implemented these. I don't like the idea of, I like my privacy. I think other people do too. And I don't think that it infringes on the skilled efforts of our law enforcement. That one camera is making that big of a difference, but.
Chief, you said that you have been having you've had heard from the community.
Yes, so I think you're gonna hear some public comment from members of our Public Safety Commission. They did not meet in quorum, so they're doing this independent of that. And then we've had open conversations with the DAAT as well, and spoken at many public events about it and the importance of technology within responsible and common sense usage. So we've had multiple conversations. I'm not aware of anybody that has submitted written testimony opposing flock cameras. So if you have it, I would love to see it.
Okay.
Just an email. Yeah, it's like, it's collecting everyone's data, not just criminals. It's everyone.
It's always taking the pictures if there's some kind of issue, right?
I'm sorry?
So just constantly taking pictures all day, or is this when there's a violation or something?
No, it's if a vehicle goes through, it's taking an image of that vehicle.
It's every single vehicle.
When it goes through the cameras, or is it speeding or something? Or just-
No, it's every vehicle.
Every single vehicle.
Every single vehicle.
Like the cameras that watch you walking around a grocery store.
Yeah.
Or walking down the street. It's just there.
And may I add some context to that? Yes, our cameras take an image of the rear of a vehicle, of every vehicle that passes the roadway that it's pointed at, and it's always pointing at a public roadway. But the vehicle images are not seen until your law enforcement officers are making a search for a criminal investigation using a NEBRIS drop-down select search reason as well as a case number.
Well, so council, you'd like some direction.
We gave
Yeah, it seems like we're having a case of like keeping the vote open or something.
No, the
We've
vote's
disposed-
open.
Yeah, we've
The vote's
disposed of
over.
the vote's over, right? We've given them direction, a meeting of some sort in May.
Okay, so.
It's the best I can. I'm not allowed to give them direction. I'm allowed to give the city manager direction.
From a technical and a time and resource perspective, what measures would we need to see in place, either technical or legal, in order, what would council need to see in place before authorizing the use of the system? So that we know where to guide our interactions with the vendor, or perhaps explore additional security controls beyond what's been explained tonight.
I want to be clear that I think because I voted no, I'm getting lumped in with we need more community feedback. That was not my reason for voting no. My concerns, like I think that some good points have been brought up about placement of cameras, and I would like to have that conversation about what is appropriate and what guardrails should be in place in terms of placement. I like the suggestion that I've received from at least one constituent about there should be clear limits on where these can be placed, not within the city, but like so that, because one of the most important things is we have a description or a license plate or whatever it is that person potentially in Albany? Have they come in? Have they left? We don't, I have no interest in there even existing a data set of how people are moving about within Albany. I can recognize the law enforcement value of So Albany's not geographically that big. Again, like I'm a geolocation person, like if we have reasonable cause to suspect that a suspect of a crime is in Albany, we can probably find them. Am I completely off base, chief? No. Okay. So like that's like my whole concern is just saying, turn it back on, overturn the suspension without having the conversation about what the additional appropriate guardrails are. I'm not, like, that's why I said, I don't have a recommendation when you looked at me for the community feedback piece, because that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not,
That's clear. Thanks for coming in.
yeah, I'm not looking for that.
I too want a more privacy-focused approach to use, targeted tools in very specific situations, like what Councilor Van Dermelen outlines. Like, I don't want to be tracking data of residents where they should have the assumption of privacy. Like they're in their car, moving around, driving. It's not like going onto a private place, a private company, like going to Target and being surveilled. It's different. You're on a public road.
Does that help?
A bit. I'm still looking for a bit more guidance in regard to.
Sean, we can get that back to you later. Maybe we can ruminate on it. I don't think we're gonna have all the answers right now, as much as I so dearly wish I did.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay. We can come back to you later we can come back to the city manager later with direction or what our thoughts are. Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for participating. And thank you from the Oregon Public Law Center. Next on tonight's agenda is public, we got a public hearing coming up. So yeah, so take a 10-minute break, please. Be back at 8:10, 8:11.
So, yeah, send me one.
Thank you. We're back in session at 8:11 p.m. Next on tonight's agenda is let me get to the document. Agenda is a public hearing for Economic Improvement District, EID, for first public hearing. I declare the public hearing open at 8:11 p.m. Does the staff have a report?
This is just the first of two public hearings that we are required to have by ORS. It is for public input, just to get any, comments from anybody who is in either favor or against this economic improvement district. So far, we've only had one person remonstrate, and so as of now, it looks like, it is a going concern as far as meeting for the second public hearing and then, potentially getting more input or more remonstrances.
Thank you. We did have one written comment. Did staff receive written comment? Okay, good. Thank you very much for that. For those who wish to testify, there are 3 options available, which were described in the agenda. Those who registered to speak during the meeting will be called upon for comment. Is there a name on the sheet at all?
We have two.
You have two names? Thank you very much. Mark Stewart for the Economic Development Improvement District. You have 3 minutes.
I just have a quick question. So as I'm looking around, there's no one that I recognize from either Chamber of Commerce or Visitor Center. I apologize if there are members from either organization here.
Yeah.
Gas station and visitors.
Visitor Center? Okay.
Visitor Association.
Downtown.
So, that's excellent. So my question is, because I believe there'll be a presentation by the head of the ADA at the end of this, or a quick comment, right?
This is a staff report.
Okay. Question for them would be, how networked are they with Chamber and Visitor Center? I think with the upcoming possible economic turmoils that we might all be facing very soon, being really well networked amongst agencies that have common goals seems like it might be pretty important. So I'm just curious what kind of how closely related and how closely they already work together.
Thank you. Trina Henderson, staff.
Hi, Trina Henderson, Albany Downtown Association. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the council for your continued support with the Downtown Albany, and especially the Economic Improvement District. The EID works because it's a true partnership between the city, downtown properties, and business owners, and the chamber and AVA. So we do work closely with the AVA. They're next door neighbors. And actually, Carmel, who is the new chamber president and CEO, we just had lunch last week. So we all work really well together, very connected. But those funds for the EID, they stay local in the downtown. They're focused on what matters the most, which is supporting our businesses, maintaining clean and welcoming environments for our downtown, and also bringing activity to our downtown. Because of that investment, we're able to go above and beyond basic services, and we're proactive on how we can support our downtown core. So I just want to say truly thank you. I know this is the first hearing, but thank you for your continued support with the downtown. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. We will now take comments for those that did not register. Does anyone, member of the audience, wish to speak in behalf on this item? If so, please raise your hand, state your name, and make your comments you may have before the city council and to provide your information to the city recorder. Anybody? Nope. Does the staff wish to respond to any of the comments received?
No, but we do thank the public for their comments.
Thank you. Recommend. I declare the public hearing closed at 8:16. Does the council wish to discuss the item or additional questions of the staff?
Request a refresher on the next step, please.
It says, well, the second EID public hearing is on May 27th, 2026, at 6 p.m. I think that.
Right, and we will have a letter that's going out to each of the property owners that have the amount of their assessment and another description, and it gives them also instructions on how to remonstrate if they want to do that. So those remonstrances have to be received by the May 27th public hearing date. Otherwise, they are opted into the program, so. And that is it.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Okay, next is public comment. Public comment is a time for Albany residents to speak and for councilors to listen. The council won't discuss topics or make decisions during public comment, but will take comments and requests under advisement. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and must follow the council's rules and observe the same standards of decorum. If you're unable to do so, you will be asked to step down and take a seat in the audience for the rest of the meeting. When you get to the microphones, please state your name and state whether or not you live in the city of Albany. Okay. Mark Stewart.
Good to go. My name is Mark Stewart. I live here in Albany. I did not want to talk about this tonight. This is not what I intended to use this time for, but for the sake of the importance of it, if you want public feedback on these flock cameras, hold a public hearing about it. Allow people to sign up and come in and talk to you about it. That seems like the most obvious way to do that. I don't know why nobody mentioned that. If you want to have these cameras in operation and you want them to remain in operation, you're going to need the public's backing to do so. Case in point, that one camera's already been taken down. You can put it back up, it's just going to get taken down by someone else again. And eventually, that's going to get expensive. So and it's my understanding that my other thoughts on how to go about meeting the public in the middle has already been shared with council in writing. So you've got my path to do that. So there it is. I want to ask anyone on the council to during their council business, and I apologize that this meeting's already ran really late, but if one of you would be willing to make a motion to have me come up here and explain to you how the oil industry works, how oil as a commodity functions. Just give me a few minutes to explain that to you. This is something that you all really, really need to know. I tried to mention this a little bit the last time I was up here for public comment, and Councilor Smith, I think you very much misunderstood what I was trying to say. I was very heartened by your response that we have the resources that we have for food pantries and whatnot to help the current number of homeless people that are out there. What I was suggesting is that we're going to have 300,000 residents in Lynn County all looking for food potentially. I'm saying we might be facing an apocalyptic level of logistic breakdown where every single person in this state is, if food even is available, might not even be affordable. We need to talk about this. The city councils I'm seeing meeting after meeting get canceled this needs to be addressed very, very soon. We are, I've been freaking out about November. Things are getting a lot scarier faster than that. So if you want to know about it, it won't take me long to explain it to you.
Next on the night's agenda is business from the council. Councilor Van Dremelen?
No business for me tonight.
Councilor McLeod?
Thank you. Recently, I had the opportunity to tour the ABC House here in downtown Albany. They're a vital part of our community, offering support services to help end child abuse and neglect. And I just wanted to thank them for the tour that they provided of their facility. And they said that tours are available to anyone who would like to see what they do. They are always in need of donations of snacks to provide to kiddos as they come in, and they have an Amazon wish list on their website. You can find it with Google. That's about all I have. Thank you.
Councilor Thompson?
Yeah, I referenced earlier on Monday, very excited, the Albany Partnership for Housing and Community Development received a CDBG federal grant from the Community Development Commission, and we are going to look to buy another life skills supportive housing house. Like I said, for low-income folks who are like one step away from homelessness, and it's exciting for us, for our organization to add to our numbers we serve. And in addition to that, you all got an invitation from the partnership. We're having an open house on May 7th at Periwinkle Place. We have replaced a unit and replaced a new, built a new unit with a focus on ADA accessibility, which is something in the low income supportive housing area we need to focus as people get older. You need that that kind of help. So you're all welcome to come to that. Also, we had upgraded the community building there through a previous CDBG grant, and that will show that off as well. So May 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it. Yeah.
Councilor Newton?
Yes, wanted to say I'm very excited about the new stop sign. If you guys remember a few weeks ago, I guess, requested to have our team look at and see if we wanted to add a stop sign around 5th and Elm, and it's currently awaiting its unveiling, and I'm just saying, as someone that lives near that, I'm so thrilled. People hot dog around that corner so fast. So I'm really grateful for that. And something I wanted to also ask about is the process by which, I know there is currently a crosswalk, I know 12th and Elm, since that's a big corridor for kids walking home from school, talking about safety for children. I know that's not a spot where we're gonna have a stop sign, but I'm wondering if we can look at getting, instead of just a regular crosswalk, just the 2 lines, having the blocked lines for the crosswalks. It's more visible, just for the safety of kids walking home from Takina Elementary School, which is a school that houses kindergarten through 2nd grade. It's the littlest kids, the 3rd through 5th are at Central, so would love to see that.
Question? It's a block lines?
Have you seen like, you know, like where they have like, it's like a 2 horizontal on the, yeah. There you go, thank you. Technical terminology, lateral crossings, would love to see that, and if there's a process to get that looked at, or what the parameters would be, just think guaranteeing kids walking safely should be a priority. That's all I have, man. Sir. Someone's called you man, sorry. I got man. I switched to her.
It's good. Everybody's getting punchy. Councilor Smith?
In the future, I would like to have a discussion about the governor's veto of House Bill 4177, and that's the practical effects of that for at least the next 18 months on members of this council.
4177?
4177.
Public meetings, yeah. Is that it?
Yep.
What else we need?
A few things. One, about 2 weeks ago, the mayor, Councilor Smith, and I had an opportunity to visit the farm worker housing development location that's happening over behind Walmart. Some of the accessible units are huge. It's about 56 units done, 60% almost finished, and there's a huge waiting list, and a mural is gonna go up, as well as a community center and like an indoor soccer field for children. So we're really excited about that. It was a really nice day. We got great weather that day, got opportunity to speak with the developers as well as the staff for the farm workers housing corporation. Second thing is this upcoming Saturday, the NAACP Lynn branch will be having there, Your Family, Your Community, Your Oregon talks about safety, healthcare, housing, and housing affordability. It will be on Saturday at 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at the Corvallis Community Center. Yours truly will be moderating all that day along with another community member as well. And just a huge thank you to the counselors bearing it out tonight, knowing you all have to get up and go make that drive. I just got to drive down to LB. So thank you. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, counselors. A couple things, or three things. I was, had the pleasure of doing a vignette or a short video. Jackson Street is celebrating its 25th anniversary in the city of Albany, Oregon, and also Corvallis. And it really means a lot that that organization is there. They do a lot for our community. So if you can, give them a shout out on the socials or just stop by and say thank you and let them know about them. So this is something that I'm a project member of. Lynn Benton Teen Idol. The first audition was last week. Fabulous. I can't sing, so I really appreciate people that can sing. But so it's for the next 6 weeks, April 24th, May 1st, May 8th, and May 15th. And the finale is May 22nd. And there's some really talented, at 6:30, there's some really talented people at this that participated. And one young lady, I'm like, I know you from somewhere. And I'm like, because I was the first singer. I'm like, oh, she was wearing a gown, stunning, great voice. And so please support this. It's worth it. It's worth the minute. It's worth every dime. It's only $4 or $5 or whatever. But the young people really appreciate it. We got people 6 to 7 years old out there singing their hearts out. So see you there. I hope to see you there. And then Legal Oregon Cities this week, Thursday and Friday. And we'll be there meeting with our counterparts from different cities and organizations throughout the state. And you guys have a safe travel over. And I will now turn it over to the city manager.
And I have nothing further to add.
Oh, I know it actually for a reason. Okay.
Are you singing? Do you have an idol song? Are you?
No, hell no. Me?
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, oh my gosh,
I
this is so
told you the
exciting.
story. I told you the story. I started singing my daughter. And she stuck her hand on my started crying. Okay. Next meeting is Wednesday, May 13th at 6 p.m. in this chamber. I'll see y'all later.